But we're trying to start a program using our foundry and our art school here to invite artists in and sort of widen our community and open up what's possible, not only for sculpture but for art in terms of where it fits in the folds of the world. And I'm really excited by the panel that's here today. And our colleague Glenn Goldberg is going to be the moderator. So I'm going to hand it off. Maybe I'll hand this microphone to you. He's got one. All right. So thank you all for coming.
Okay. I guess just briefly, I just have two people that I would like to acknowledge in the studio art department. One is Professor Gonzalez, who is our chair, also runs the an amazing photo program at our school, and always extremely supportive of his faculty and his students, more importantly. And as Malcolm said, he has supported this idea and this panel. And the bronze casting project that we'll tell you a bit more later on when Marcus speaks with us. And secondly, and not less than, I would like to acknowledge my colleague Malcolm MacDougall, who is an adjunct professor, believe it or not, because he probably does as much or more than any full-time tenured professor that has ever inhabited a university. Many of you know him in sculpture. He's inordinately gifted and knowledgeable about sculptural techniques, including bronze casting, et cetera, but I want to follow that quickly and say his kindness and his generosity and his gentle demeanor is felt by all that come in contact with him. So I want to thank Malcolm for what he does for our students here at the school. So then I want to jump into what we're here for, which is our four artist panelists, who I quickly want to introduce. But before I do that, I just want to tell you what the format will be. Each artist will share some thoughts around a couple of their works that we'll see on the monitor over there. And then I will ask each one of them a question, and they will elaborate on that and take it wherever they choose. And then at the end of running through all of our artists here, there'll be some questions for you all to ask. I'm completely confident that this will be informative and moving for all of us. So I just want to welcome everybody, and we appreciate you all coming to this, this discussion. I'm going to go from your left to right. We have Jared Owens, Marcus Mananni, Russell Craig, and Gilberto Rivera. We're going to begin with Russell, and in each case I'm going to read a brief bio so you get some sense of not all, but some of the things that they've accomplished. So give me a moment. Okay. Russell Craig is co-founder of Right of Return USA, the first fellowship for formerly incarcerated artists. Russell is also on the leadership board at the Center for Art and Advocacy. He is also an Art for Justice Fellow and a Creative Capital recipient. He is currently at residence at Silver Art Studios at the World Trade Center in Manhattan, and is a featured artist in the Emmy Award-winning documentary Art and Crimes, with a K, that is. So I am going to hand it over to you, Russell, to tell us about the two works, maybe include the titles, and share with us all thoughts and any kind of context you want to give us on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. I'll jump right into this piece. With a lot of my works, I like to use materials. Right now, a lot of leather is what I use, and the reason why I use leather, because it represents like the skin, because leather is the hide of like the cow, So like in the system, and we all formerly incarcerated. So like the system in America is like racist and things like that. So I'm like touching on the mistreatment of black people in America, and from my experience in the prison system. So I like to use leather and then paint on the leather instead of like canvas. And then sometimes I use like blood of the cow, never like pig's blood. It was like always like beef. I don't even like touch like pork, eat pork, none of that. So this piece here is those are gloves that's like fireproof when people use do like a blow glass and things like that. So the shape is, and this picture was too up close, so you can't see. You could get an idea of like the octagon. So the panopticon is referencing the architectural design of the first prison, Eastern State. And then a lot of prisons was built after that. And I'm from Philadelphia, where Eastern State is now a tourist attraction. And I also was a tour guide there when I first got out. So I made the connection with that. So you have the panopticon architectural shape. Then using the fireproof gloves, I'm symbolizing is symbolic to like going through hell. Like prison is like, you know, a very bad place. So the title of this piece is Light at the End of the Tunnel. So it's like we traveled through that hell, like years of prison, to end up you know, in a better place. So for a number of years we would go to Aspen. They have something called Art Crush every year, and was in the Aspen Museum and stuff like that. So the moral of the story is, it's like traveling through what we went through to be at a better place. And then like at places like Aspen, or having a studio at the World Trade Center, like it was just a dream when we was inside, like, and we made it come true. So this piece symbolizes. And then like I pull from like 19th century European like art, pop culture, Marvel. So is a Marvel character, Doctor Strange, and he be making these portals, and they step through the portals. So that's like what this is. Like that's why that you see like the color around it, like the orangey, whatever. So I'm like trying to show y'all like a portal open up, you know, because we went through prison to being in Aspen and Miami Art Basel every year, major museums, the Brooklyn Museum, Permanent Collection, Studio Museum, Harlem Collection. So it's like, and never knew that it would get that, you know, that kind of success would get obtained, but it was all like a dream, like visualized it and just stepped through in real life and made that happen. So that's what that piece represents. Yes, you can go to the next one. So this one right here, proud of this piece. I'm happy that like a lot of people got it, you know, like cause you be in the studio and like Jared was there. He helped a portion of this. You be in the studio and they come to you like I was working on something else, and then the idea was like, oh, I should do a cell door. So the color is like similar to the cell door that you know I did 12 years total. Not all together. On my last day, I did 7 years. And then the reason why I got number 13, because like the 13th Amendment, slavery is abolished unless you commit a crime. So I'm like referencing that. The orange, usually the numbers was black on the doors that I was at, but I use orange because orange is associated with like prison uniform. Orange is the new black. The slot is like the food slot where the gentleman is peeking out. So when we was in prison, like you be like looking down. So it was like it reminded me of like you bow down to eat, because that's where they like hand you your food and you like looking down and talking to them. Let me get a milk or whatever. And it's like you can't even like be upright. You gotta like bow down. So then once I was making this, and Jared came and seen it, we started to talk about like how in prison, like they call it fishing, where you take like the sheets and you rip it like a string. You rip it like fine and tie it to whatever item, and like a letters or something where we'd be locked in, and you would like slide things to each other. So and then he happened to have some sheets from Ferriton in his studio. I was like, oh no, I need that. So then I ripped it up and I incorporated that into the piece and tied it to a soup, ramen noodles, because like that's like one of the main things you eat when off a commissary. And then it was like that's leather that's around the slot. the straps of the bag, because I be using I cut the bags up and sew them together. I don't have any examples of the pieces where I use a lot of leather bags. And then that came from a gentleman who was locked up with Jared Kondo and Jesse. His name was Ernest Joyner, and he would make these purses in federal prison that was really high quality. So I would buy all his purses and then cut them up and make them as my canvas. And then they shipped them to another prison on the strength of, because they hear your conversations. So I kept sending them money, $2,000 here, $1,000 there, and it's he has a business, and they don't like that. And they try to act like the prison is to reform you or whatever, or to better you, but then when you get something going on, they shut it down. A lot of guys was getting degrees and stuff like that, shut it down. I'm from Philadelphia. It was a boxer named what was his name? From Philly. They call him the execution. Bernard Hopkins. So he learned how to box in jail, and then he got out beating all champs. He was crazy, and they were saying he was too old for whatever. But then, long story short, they shut the boxing program down because he beat a lot of major dudes. You know what I'm saying? That was champions. And I guess that's it. And as soon as I made this piece, Beth the Woody had purchased it. I went to Miami. She's a major collector, so it was crazy. As soon as I made it, went to Miami. She was coming out of a restaurant. I introduced, let me see your work. I'm like, this is something I just made. She's like, I want that. I'm like, dang, that's what's up. So yeah, that was really good. And she has an art show in Palm Beach every year. So that piece will be included. And I guess that's it.
Okay, so Russell, I've got a question for you. Given that all of the panelists are Right of Return Fellows, I know that you are a co-founder. Would you please explain to all of us what the Right of Return Fellowship is and how it came to be? Because clearly it's a program with a lot of impact. Yeah.
Thank you. We're very proud of that things worked out. So, Right of Return, we give grants out to formerly incarcerated artists, $20,000, 10 for their pocket, 10 for a project that they would do with Right of Return, and a nonprofit of their choice. Me and Jesse Crimes, some years ago, forgot exactly the years. It's been about 6 years now or so. About that, almost 7. Yeah. So it was just a dream. We was getting into. It's really funny. Go back to that one with the portal of how we would just dream and visualize a lot of things. And once we started getting to a place where we was finding some success with our art, we had an idea of trying to help others. So it was a blessing that we was getting funding, and then we was just able to help a lot of our friends and then artists all around the country. And the talent is out of this world. So it was really awesome that we got that opportunity to assist so many artists that don't get the chance for their work to be shown and things like that. So that's basically where it came from. The Center for Art and Advocacy, we got significant funding to expand Right of Return to the point where we're going to have residencies in between Pennsylvania and New York. And we also have a location that's being built in Brooklyn. We'll have residencies, an academy, to teach artists things that they might not know from being in prison, not how to fill out anywhere that they need help. And then also a mental health component, because there's a lot of trauma and things associated with coming out of prison. There's different levels of trauma, so we want to have a component for that as well.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it. Now we're going to shift to Jared Owens, directly to my left. I want to read Jared's biography before he jumps into a couple of images. Pull down the glasses so I could see. Jared Owens is a justice-impacted artist who works in painting, sculpture, and installation using carceral materials. In references, he brings attention to architectures of confinement, as well as the purposeful shadowing of humanity. Since 2021, Owens has a studio at Silver Art Project in the World Trade Center, where he is also the artist liaison. He was one of 3 finalists for the 2024 Freeze Impact Prize and a 2022-23 Art for Justice Fellow. Recently, he was featured in Cultured Magazine and the Voices of America Connect series. In the last recent exhibition, No Justice Without Love, curated by Daisy DeRosier at the Ford Foundation, New York, and Grand Gallery, Ohio, Visions of Transcendence, Creating Space in East and West, curated by Emma Diffley at the Wyndham Museum in Culver City, California. So welcome Jared, and Jared will now walk us through a couple of his works.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you. I'm waiting for him to put them up for the next slide. Okay, jumping right in. My name is Jared Owens. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. Like he said, my practice focuses on justice-impacted individuals, the carceral state, mostly with an eye towards the architecture. This particular painting is titled Shadow Boxing. So all of these shadows that you see were created from a lino cut. And when I was incarcerated, I was thinking about what we look like with the roof off. And I couldn't help but think that we would look like, from a helicopter view, the people lined up on the Brook slave ship, which was a diagram they used to sensationalize slavery so that there would be like a cessation of it. Of course, they didn't transport humans that way, but it was used as a document because there were no cell phones back then. So it was used as an education tool, kind of, sort of. So when I first started doing these, I looked for a way to show that there's a multiplicity, that there's a lot of people. So I said, how do I do that? So the stamp, conceptually for me, is also about how I'm stamping it. I'm stamping them on the walls. This one was done on the floor. And when you do them on the wall, conceptually, these guys know on the inside, guys use Morse code to communicate with each other because they don't want the guards to hear what they're talking. So a lot of part of it, me doing it conceptually, is me actually banging on the wall, and anybody who's been in solitary or whatever, there's going to be some point where you bang on the wall, just to hear what it sounds like, just to test your confinement, just to test where you are. So that always comes back to me, and it's present in the work. The other thing that's really strange about these works is that you probably can't see it now, but even though there's only 4 images on the stamp, they start having faces, eyes, nose, mouths. So in trying to steal their identity, you still can't do it from a stamp. It's impossible to take the identity. So the human mind, psychologically, when it sees this many figures arranged in this manner, it automatically screams that something's wrong, at least the way I see it. It's also a binary code, it looks like to me. There's reasons why some of it is darker than other rows, and some of it is lighter. It's because I don't want it to be uniform. I want it to be broken up. It's paying attention to the picture plane. This one's more personal to me because it has the orange jumpsuits on it. There's other ones that I do that are actually more universal. I don't want the work to be looked at and approached as if it's specifically about me. So it's about all of us because we're a society, it takes a village, and this is the end results of what the village does. So I want that to be evident. So I don't want anyone to be able to escape the work and say, oh, I have nothing to do with this. There's a lot of work where there's escapism, where you can look at it and say, oh, this is really cool, it has nothing to do with me. So this is all inclusive, and it's made to be not confrontational, it's made to make you think, it's made to generate thought, it's made to make you question the power dynamics that exist in the world today. As far as palette and materials, when I was in federal prison, I sent dirt home like Private Ryan, which, the movie where he was taking the dirt. And so I did that because the movie was out at the time, and I needed a conceptual material to take home because Jesse, who's not here, who's the co-founder with Craig and who's we're in the movie with, he was using bed sheets. And bed sheets had always been used, and I wanted my own material, so I actually took the soil from the weight pile because you know, all the DNA, the stabbings, the cuttings, all the, you know, I went and got the dirtiest soil I could find. So in the end, when these paintings are done, it's done like a benediction. Like I just basically like sprinkle some in the end. Sometimes in the next painting, you'll see it's put on in the beginning. But it's always present, and it's a material I have no desire to go back and get. Like I always tell everybody, they can keep it. So there's a finite amount of it. So for me, it's a valuable material. What else about this? So the stamps are also in generations. This is a third generation stamp, and the reason being is that after you start stamping for a while, the creases start to get like, they get caked up, and even though it's oil paint, the canvas acts like sandpaper, and it actually starts to erase the stamp. So you only get a certain amount of paintings out of one stamp. So it's like you get a finite amount. So what I do is, after I complete a series, like 4 or 5 paintings, and I see what the condition of the stamp is, I say, okay, you're done. And then I catalog it so that I know that it's this stamp is from this series, and there's no way for anybody to ever duplicate them, because I have the original stamps, which is like a kind of like also like money and printing, and there's consumerism. And in this painting, you can't see it, but I also use corrugated cardboard as a substrate behind the painting before I do the impression, because it leaves bar-like structures on the figures themselves, which is, I mean, it also keeps the picture plane together. But this is before I discovered that and added it to the work. You can go to the next one. So this is a lapsium. This is the first time I was thinking about the sentiment of the slave ship and then architecture also. Of course, there's the suggestion of architecture. There's the buildings, there's the squares, there's the hulls of ships, and then you see guys blatantly as if they're, you know, there's depth in it. So the bottom is supposed to be flat because that's what your mind is used to, is seeing them laid out on the deck. But then when they get past the deck, now they're stood up and it looks like they're inside of a structure. So there's like a transformation that happens in the picture plane, which is kind of instructive for the viewer, so that you can contextualize all the other shadow figures when you see them standing by themselves. So this is kind of, some of the paintings inform the other work and inform the rest of the narrative. So that's, this is a foundation. Without this, I couldn't have gotten to the other paintings. So this is one of the first ones I did, and it's a muted palette. And, you know, I always try to put a nod to art historical reference, and, you know, Rothko used the triptych inside of a picture plane, so 3 of them, not comparing this to that, but saying that I always try to keep an element of art historical reference in all the work. Usually overtly, not blatantly, but sometimes a little blatant. And yeah, any questions?
I've got one for you, Jared. You touched upon it. So the question is, how did the use of actual prison soil in your works come to fruition, and was there any danger involved in obtaining the materials on the inside?
Yeah, so it came to fruition because I studied a lot while I was on the inside. And at the time I was studying Tamayo, Rufino Tamayo, and he used volcanic soil in his paintings. You know, like, so he would do a painting, you see like these little specks of dust, and it's incredible. If you ever get a chance to see one, really go see it. The surfaces are amazing. So he gave me the idea of using soil. You know, soil's been used before, but I mean, not from a generic, you know, where they called it from. So that's what I was thinking of. And yeah, sending the soil home was a little bit challenging. My mother thought I was crazy because she kept opening up ceramic pieces. She's like, "Why are you sending soil home?" And I'm like, "You'll get it one day, Mom." So she kept my peanut butter jars stacked on the side, and thank God, because, you know, I had, like I said, there's a finite amount of it, and like I said, I just picked it because I couldn't think. At the time, I was studying Tamayo, and it seeped into the work, so it was a good thing, you know. And like I said, there'll always be art historical reference somewhere in the work, maybe even in the titles. You know, to me, titles are paintings. So, you know, like the title of this is a lapsium. Craig makes fun of me all the time. I make up words and colloquialisms. Is that how you say? I make up words all the time. So this is just like one that I made up. So it has to do with a lapse, which is time, and then asylum. So if you put, you know what, Oxford should put this up in there. You guys gonna help me? Let's get that in there. A lapsium. So it's an asylum and time passing at the same time, is what I came up with.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Thank you, Jared. Next, we're going to hear from Gilberto Rivera. I'm going to read his bio briefly, and then we'll jump into his images. Gilberto Rivera. Gilberto is a featured artist in the groundbreaking exhibition marking time, Art in the Age of Mass Incarceration. He has shown at the Ford Foundation's No Justice Without Love, Chosen Family at Marto's Gallery, and is currently showing at Washington State University of Law. Gilberto is a Right of Return Fellow, an Art for Justice Fellow, is featured artist in the Emmy Award-winning documentary Art and Crimes, again with a K. So welcome, Gilberto. I'm going to change the slide so you could share some thoughts with us.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you for everybody who made it happen. And thank your students for coming. Yeah, I stole it from you. Hey, we happen to be Right of Return also fellowships, right? And we know Jesse and we know Russell, but I didn't get it to the 5th year, so it wasn't a friend thing. I had to wait 5 years to get it, yo. All right, so how I came about this series is called Jailbirds, right? I grew up in Brooklyn and East New York, and the conversation around, you know, people going to prison, coming home, going back to prison. To call you a jailbird was like to write you off, like, you know, oh, he's a jailbird, he's gonna go back to jail again, so on and forth. So that's where the name comes from it. So here I'm taking a bird and putting it in jail. And, you know, as humans, you always try to capture everything and put in cages and study it and admire it or whatever, right? So it plays off of that as well. Some of these things you would want to see them because it has like articles about Rikers Island, about how the numbers of women going to prison today is like the fastest growing one, right? And all those articles are in there. And I want you, I don't know, for lack of words, interact with my work. I want you to see it today, see something, and maybe come see it tomorrow and, you know, discover something else, right? I want for it to keep giving you something. And I also want to keep the conversation about prison reform alive and give it like a fresh look on it, right? Because if we keep saying the same thing over and over, it just becomes stale, then nobody want to hear it. So I was hoping to give you a different perspective on it and keep the conversation going. And hopefully we'll come to a time where we gotta stop thinking about it being a black, a brown problem. It's a human problem. You know what I'm saying? White, we all in it. Look at the numbers, look what's going on. Here might be some colors, but go to Middle America. What the drugs is doing there to those people. They going to prison too. They white, but they going to prison. They going to the same prisons. They getting treated no different than us. It's a human problem. And that's what we gotta look at it. And move on and identify it, find solutions. So hopefully with these series, this is what I'm looking to do. To like keep the conversation, have these conversations with people, right? Students are the best people to have the conversations. Like me and him was having a conversation earlier, and I'm like, I love to talk to students, right? Because the mess we created, we leaving it to y'all, and the generation that's following you. And for some reason, we did, and you're gonna have to find a solution for it. We're gonna move on, right? And that's why I like coming to these places. I never say no to them. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Okay, this is more the same thing. And they got the thing in prison, right? When they say you act up or whatever, they call it a 4-point hole, where that bunk will have like little hooks, two in the top, 2 in the bottom, and when they feel they can't deal with you anymore or whatever, they strap you, legs or whatever. And so that's what's going on with him with his ego. He's not only in jail, he's being 4-point hold, and he's wounded. So it's insult on top of insult on top of insult, right? And he has a big cell though, you know? So yeah, so that's it. And if you was to come up and look at some of the articles It has something, it talks about like closing Rikers Island, what's going on in Rikers Island with mental illness, the homicides that are happening there. I have a nephew that died in Rikers Island, right? So I'm personally connected to some of this issues, right? He got into a fight. He was hurt. He didn't know he was hurt like that. He died from internal bleeding. He was 18 years old. So like, and me and his brother felt him because we was in prison when they was out here becoming men, right? And we became men in prison. And yeah, and we got to stop that cycle. And my work and me talking, I'm hoping that I don't fail nobody else. And again, that's the chair that we get when we're in prison in the federal system. I did 18 and a half years in the federal system, from here to California and in between. Actually, that's the window in Farrington. Remember the window in Farrington used to look like? That's it right there. And so I just put that window on there. He said solitary, the pelican. Yeah, and like these pieces, I could speak to you about them, but it's better you look at them and see what's going on in the background, and you get a better understanding. That's basically it.
Okay, Gilberto, I've got a question for you as well, obviously. What do you feel is the biggest difference between making art on the inside versus making art on the outside? And what do you feel is the best way to prevent future problems for system-targeted youth?
Education. We failing to educate these kids, right? And then when we get them in the system, we putting them in a little space like this with this amount of people, right, and a TV or whatever, with no way for them to channel their emotions or whatever they're going through. They can't speak it to the next person next to them because you don't, in prison, you don't wear your feelings on your sleeves. You give no one else anything that they can ridicule you or come at you or whatever. So you become introverted, right? And if you don't give them some type of channel to be able to, like, if not let it out, but move away from the thoughts, right? For whatever amount of time. That's what art did for me. When in my hardest moment, I found art. And sometimes I would be like, F art, I'm not doing this no more, whatever. And then I found myself in solitary confinement, in a dark place, then art finds me again, right? And that's how I cope, right? Like, you become introverted, man. You can't tell nobody your feelings or none of that. So, education, teach them trades as well. We're moving away from that. And these kids, right, okay, if they're outside, they're doing a million things, right? But now they're kind of like isolated in prison. This is the best time for you to educate them, right? And give them something to go out. So education, we failing. The educational system is messed up. For some reason, they're getting all these other people. It's changing, right? But to educate these inner city kids from like people who never really been in the city, so they can't understand these kids, but then they're scared of them because that's what the news says, right? And so they kind of like don't know how to deal with the kids, right? And then you fail them when you come like that, right? And you know, and we could say is let our own people, teachers, or this or that. It don't matter who they get the education from, as long as they getting educated, right? And yeah, that's, as far as art, there's more stuff out here. So I spend more time picking stuff than doing art. But yeah, I liked the process when I had nothing and I had to make something to, you know, like a brush or take the M&Ms and get the colors off the M&Ms to do some art on my envelope. And I liked that process. Like even some people see me stretch out canvases, like you still do. I used to have two hands, by the way. But 18 months after prison, I had an accident. So people still be like, you still stretching canvases? I was like, yeah, that's like part of the process. I want to smell it. I want to touch it. The size of the canvas dictates what I'm going to put on it. And it's like part of the process. So I miss the process, right? When I go back for it, I'll give it to somebody else, right? I'll figure it out. I'll get rid of everything and start over, right? in my studio. I'm comfortable there. That's it.
Thank you, Gilberto. Next, last but not least, is my friend Marcus Mananni. Just quickly, stay tuned, because down the road, Marcus's piece will be presented in some capacity at the school. He's working on a project with Professor MacDougall, a bronze piece. And Professor MacDougall has started a program in conjunction with Maria and Louise at the museum here, where once a year an artist will be invited to make a bronze piece, and one of those pieces will be part of the museum collection. So Malcolm, Marcus is our first artist to do that. So we're very excited about this. I want to read you his bio before he begins. Marcus Mananni is a multidisciplinary artist focused on works that exist within the intersection of art and activism. His Sky Conversations are site-specific installations that involve a sun mapping process he began during a stint in solitary confinement. Mananni's works are informed by institutional architecture, and through the use of light physics, he employs reflections and refractions to reform environments. By placing the viewer's image inside these reformed spaces, Mananni's works ask the viewer to reconsider our physical and social structures. Through the use of light and sky, Mananni highlights the connections and disconnections between the natural world and the worlds we build. Mananni is the recipient of the 2023 Art for Justice Fellowship, receiving an individual artist grant, as well as the 2023 Art and Advocacy Collaborative Grant. He's a 2022 Right of Return Fellow and received the 2022 CRNY Artist Grant. He's currently showing at the Gunn Gallery in Gambler, Ohio. He's recently exhibited and was a selected speaker with the Ford Foundation in New York City in 2023, the Museum of Broken Windows by the NYCLU 2023, and the Center for Art and Advocacy during Aspen Art Crush, Aspen, Colorado, 2023. Marcus is somewhat modest. He also has an exhibition opening very soon in New York City. Maybe he can give you the name of the gallery. So I welcome Marcus Mananni, and we're going to have him talk about a couple of his works.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank the college, Glenn, everybody, for having me. So part of being the first artist in this bronze casting program and being introduced into the museum, being asked to put together, or who I would like to be on a panel with, there was no questions asked. That every single person up here with me is these are my friends. They see me at my best and my worst, and they're still here without a doubt. There was a yes right off the bat, so I appreciate it. So I want to go right into the works. I'm a proud Right of Return Fellow. That is Craig's co-founder. So this was my piece for Right of Return. It's made of 1,500 individual handmade acrylic, quote unquote, prison shivs would be the right way to put it. Which it's a toothbrush with razor blades. We used to call them Glocks or burners or guns or whatever inside. So I handmade each one, and it took me a year and a month to make. And so if you notice, there's a lot of similarities in our works, given our shared experience, and it involves the architecture that we were confined to. So we have a 10-tier, if you look at the piece, there's a 10-tier system. And then we see the quote unquote burners or prison shivs or Glocks. Let's call them burners for now. within a tier system. So it's mimicking the prison architecture. So prison architecture is based on a tier system, and then we see individuals within this tier system. So since light is my medium, if you look past the piece and on the wall, we can literally see figures taking place, the shadows of almost individuals within a tier system, mimicking the carceral system. So that's my piece titled Into and Burners. It's my right of return piece, and it marks a pivotal point in my my art career. So I just wanted to share that one. Good one. Yeah. This is a close up. I also every single razor blade I hand clipped with shears and a clamp. So I also made 1,500 individual razor blades, and that's to make sure that each one was an individual, to individualize each one. And so this is an extension of end-to-end burners. Once again, if you look close enough, you can see the toothbrushes, but this time the end is sharpened, which is also a form of a weapon inside the prison system. And this is my piece for the museum. It's titled Sentencing, and I had a friend inside. The making of this piece originated from Into and Burners, and I have a friend inside that was sentenced to 2 years, but he didn't make it out. You know, I played chess with him, pictures of his wife and his kids, but he didn't make it out, and he had 2 years to go. So this piece is called Sentencing. It's confronting the violence that happens inside, and it's also taking the shape of a sunburst to mimic time, and also of a clock to mimic time. And the idea behind it is how obscure it is to use time as punishment. Because my friend that was murdered inside was sentenced to 2 years, but he essentially was sentenced to death. So I just wanted to make that and highlight that. I know it's not the dark subject matter, but I think it comes through in a different. Using the sunburst, it also is, and the bronze casting with Malcolm allows it. We make it beautiful to approach these darker subjects. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, Marcus, so I know that your work started in solitary confinement, so could you talk to us a bit about that, please?
Sure. Can we go back 2 slides and then burners, please? I'm not the best public speaker, by the way. I'm not as good as these guys. These guys are easy. Okay, so I did a year and a half in solitary confinement. A lot of times you're forced to fight, or you can end up for multiple reasons that are out of your hands. With that being said, I noticed a little bit of natural light entering my cell. And I was in for so long that the season was changing and the sun was getting lower in the sky. And so I started sun mapping with my fingernail on the wall. And I was taking potato chips, the inside of potato chip bags, like they'll come in commissary or whatever, and using the reflective parts to kind of cast and like reflect and refract throughout my cell. So it was my way of like passing time, exploring my physical, social, and social isolation. So that is the basic of my work while I was inside. And it also provided me a way to speak to the outside world. I'm having a conversation with the sun. You know what I mean? Like, how amazing was that? Like, I also want to talk about, books are like, imagination is contraband inside. Literally, like books, there's the books they ban are, they can be based in magic, fantasy, whatever. It's deemed as, a threat to security, and that is because they literally do not want you. You know, imagination allows us to think of a better world. Imagination allows us to see a better self, right? So I've always thought about how interesting it was that I was alone, but not really, because my imagination was my only counterpart, right? So through the sun mapping process and using reflection and refraction is what led me through the entirety of it. And then once I was released, I just made a deal with life that I was just going to keep going for better, for worse. And ironically, my first piece went up in 2017, and that's when Right of Return started. But I had my eyes just focused on my larger scale public pieces. I didn't think about gallery space. I didn't think there was space for us. And at the same time, there was this group of heavy hitting artists advocating for people such as myself. And so once again, going back to, as Craig mentioned, when you're inside, your imagination is your only companion, and you try to envision the future. And then all of a sudden I'm here with my cohort, and like that is an amazing thing. And not only that, I'm here with leadership and people that have actually paved the path for people like myself. And and as far as like, yes, I'm humble, I'm introverted. Going back to being inside, you keep to yourself, stay out of general population, stay out of shit. I have a show coming up, which is a big deal for me. I never thought, having a solo show, showing in Aspen, showing in Basel, you know what I mean? And we've all been in multiple shows together, and spoken together, and I'm still amazed at the power that is literally next to me. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for being there, my worst, my best. Thank you for allowing me this platform. Queens College, Glenn, Malcolm, everybody, so thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things, I guess from my heart. And Marcus actually asked for me to moderate this, which for me is a source of pride and an honor. I'd met a couple of these men before. I find them incredibly inspiring. What they have come through and who they are, where they are, what they have to teach us, what they give to us. I'm assuming you all feel that as well. So I just want to acknowledge how extraordinary I feel these people are, and they're inside of me. And in moments, whether it's them or folks like them, there's so many people in this world that are inspiring, and we got to stay close to those people and be real thoughtful about who we have in our lives so that we can thrive amidst all sorts of dilemmas that we all face, certainly some of us more than others. I'll leave it at that. So I just want to express that and share that with you. Grateful to be involved and be sitting up there with these people. We are at the agreement with the folks up here, definitely looking for some questions. If any of you have questions, they'd be happy to answer them. They can be to an individual or to the group. Please don't be shy. So yeah, we're going to open it up for questions right now. And again, thanks everybody for being a part of this.
I'm just curious if you guys had any exposure at all to art before you were inside, or how you would you just find it yourselves, or did you have any exposure in school, or from your parents, or from the community, or
So I'll begin. So I grew up in Rockland County, and we had art programs in school, actually. They existed. We had a ceramic room, a painting room. It's kind of set up like a mini prison, believe it or not. But we had all those things, and that was what started me on my journey. So because the school had those programs, I was always in the art program. I always, my favorite teacher was my art teacher. My favorite class to go to was painting and drawing. And, when I left sports alone, it was good to have those classes to go to, because then I started to practice, and that's what you need. But I've always been doing this since I was a kid, so yeah.
Yeah, my mother used to. I used to get in trouble for decorate. She said I decorated everything. So I came out the womb with a paintbrush and a crayon. My mother would say. I started making. The first thing I started doing, I remember, was collecting it's New York City. I'm from Queens originally. Collecting cardboard boxes, and I would cut slits into them, and then I would stack these. I'd also color them with crayons and stack them into shapes, and then that would initially become sculptures, unknowing what I was doing. And then I was also crayons you can take from school, and they're also inexpensive. So I was a weird kid. I would take the cardboard. I would make forms out of cardboard and then melt the crayons to make this kind of marbling thing, and then make boxes out of the crayons. So ever since I remember, I've always, in some way, shape, or form, been, this thing we call an artist, creative. I've always been a maker.
With me, I was around 7 years old, and I was a foster kid. So me and my sister was in a foster home, and one day she drew a picture of The Simpsons off the Tracy Ullman show. I'm a little older because the Tracy Ullman show was where The Simpsons started, and then they had their own show after that. So she drew The Simpsons, and we was in kind of a rough household, and she got all this attention. It was not normal to be. It was always, we was in trouble. We had a real stern parent, and it just was crazy how oh, this is so great. So I tried to draw one too, and then it was get out of here. She already did that. So I stayed in, and then a few days later, she came in with my sister came in with a painting of a horse, and what else? She painted two things, and that's just where the inspiration came from. So for years, I would just be in my own world from the age of 7 and just doing art, and being as though I had a crazy upbringing. It was always an escape, and then going to prison, that continued. I would block out everything and just have tunnel vision on my work and developing it, and then I just started. Then I had kind of a business inside of doing portraits or whatever, because I never got visits and none of it. Never visits. My whole 12 years in prison, never no letters and things like that. So I'm so happy that I had art, because it was such a tool to change my life around, and also navigate the prison system in the rough areas in my life. Art was always there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they had classes where I went to, and I partaked in some of them. But I always I had art in my life, and it took me a while, right? I was maybe 10 years ago when I had a conversation with somebody, and it was yo, you've been creating art? And I was yeah, it's for how long? And then I go search it in my mind, and he's yo, you've been an artist all your life. What are you talking about? But I didn't know that, right? I was just creating art. I did graffiti before I went to prison. And then I left it alone, and then I went to prison, and kind of somebody to do something for me. They kind of shined me off, and I was I could do that. And then that sent me off to where I'm at today with. and I don't look at prison something I had to go through, right? But I say that I was fortunate to move from place to place, because I met a whole lot more artists dealing with different materials, right? So it expanded my palette, right? And I was in California, I met somebody who did impressionism, abstract to a different level, used different materials, and every prison, the material kind of changed. So the use of material, and to learn and how to use different materials, I was fortunate. I mean, I was in prison, but at the end of the day, I was always taught that no matter what situation you're at, when you come out with something positive, that matters, right? So I came out here, y'all called me an artist. So it wasn't a waste.
Next question, come on, man, y'all being shy. I'm over here being super shy, y'all can't do that.
Yeah, good question. You need a mic for the question? Go ahead.
I'm going to pass this to you. There you go.
I think the room's quiet enough. Okay, I have a mic. I wanted to ask, you guys like kind of touched on it, like while you were speaking and right now. What led you to like your particular mediums? I mean, you probably worked through different mediums. You probably experimented with different things both in and out of incarceration. But I was wondering like what made you like land and stick with, or like led you to go with the mediums you did?
I'll go first. I don't believe in any one medium. Life is my medium. I think I would never say I'm a painter. I would say I'm multidisciplinary. When you talk about mediums, you're just talking about technical aspects of art creation. Everybody's more comfortable with different mediums. Some people are comfortable painting, some people are comfortable sculpting. Some people are just a piece of paper in front of them and they could just draw and doodle like incredible. So, I mean, whatever makes you comfortable, do. But for me, I get bored very easy. I'm done with painting already. Like it's something that I do, that I know how to do, that I've taught myself how to do. But you have to explore everything else. Different pigments, different whatever. I mean, there's people like Connell was talking about making work with Eminem died. There's a guy on death row who did like landscapes with cut his hair and made brushes. So like that's his medium. Sometimes you have a medium that comes out of desperation, like ours. Like Jesse using bed sheets, me using soil. So you're forced to use mediums. So even out here, even though you don't have anybody standing over you, you should force yourself to use other mediums. You should force yourself to find the most uncomfortable thing there is to do and practice that. Because the things that I do easily, I don't touch. It's the things that I don't know how to do that I spend the most time on. And the mediums that I spend the most time on, trying to master. Just for technique. And you could be the medium master, the technique master. There's people that could draw the phone book, and guess what? In the art world, it doesn't mean anything.
So like I mentioned, I was always drawing, painting, making things, graffiti, skateboarding. You know what I mean? Always creating something, decorating something. For me, light became, once again, in solitary confinement, I'm there. I started sun mapping. I started reflecting the sun using refraction. I taught myself Newtonian light physics and, reflections, refractions, double refractions. I went heavily into, how to manipulate light, like where to predict where the reflection will land, where refractions are going to happen. So these types of things, and just continuing a conversation, sky conversations, I call them, which was referenced earlier. So I would say, as far as a medium, light became my medium and is my medium, but also too, I feel like that every medium is light. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I always thought I was going to be a painter. I always tried to paint, and then when I got out, I have 4 sisters, and the one I was still talking with, had one of my paintings, and it was done on cardboard. Done on this sheet of plywood that I found, and I took it, and I was so tired of looking at it, and I was still on probation, and I remember I'm just gonna make a box out of it, and so I made it into a box, and then I kind of was like, oh, it's a sculpture now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's very vague, but somewhere there's light, somewhere there's sculpture, somewhere there's painting, but they all coexist as one, and they can transcend through you in multiple different ways. Like I also have a writing practice, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's mine.
For me, I would say, if you just painting on like a regular canvas, it gets like kind of boring to a degree, and then like the work that I make is like social injustice, dealing with the prison system and things like that. So the issues be like heavy. So the materials will like heighten the message and things like that. For example, I got a series called Eval, short for psychiatric evaluations. So when I mentioned that I went to the butcher and got some blood, cow's blood, and I recreated the Rorschach ink block test, because when I was in foster care, they would like give me the psychiatric evaluations. So I'm talking about like the trauma and things like that of like police brutalities, like seeing like white police kill black people and get away with it and things like that, and like reading those stories and stuff is like vicariously traumatizing. So I wanted that to be in the work. If I would have just used paint, it's just not as powerful as that. And I think it came from us being in prison. Like we have to use like the Eminem thing. Dudes was making soap sculptures that was insane. This one dude made like a eagle. It was like real out of soap. It was crazy, and it was real big. I was like, how you get the soap to do that? Like some dudes would just get real crazy, taking cardboard and making ships and all this kind of stuff. And so it was like having those lack of materials. It forces you to be a little bit more creative. Also, like looking at other art where like a painting is really big. When I was telling you about European art, like usually a big painting mean like the subject is like big, you know, but some people wouldn't know that. They'll think the painting is big just to be big. Or like in sculpture with like the generals, they be on a horse. If the horse has all the feet down, that mean that he was in battle and didn't get murdered. If one of the feet up, that mean he was wounded in battle. And if the horse is both standing up, that mean he died in battle. So it's like a lot of people don't be knowing the meaning. So I like to have that in my work, that if you have to dig deep because there's more going on than what you just see.
As far as material, I'm most comfortable with acrylics, but I also noticed that the material we use is how we perceive what art is, right? Like some people would feel like if you do markers, right? Oh, they're like, that's not like art, right? At one time, graffiti wasn't considered art. Today it's everywhere, right? So I think the material has a lot to do with how you perceive art, right? But I'm comfortable with acrylics. I use everything. I like pencil and paper. I like pen, and I like to create art. And because I want to break that bubble where people think that you need to have money to have like real original art pieces in your house. You don't. They got local artists around here. You need to go ahead and support, right? You don't need thousands of dollars. You don't need thousands of dollars to create art. So if I take a piece of paper, a paper bag, I draw on it, and when I do that, the idea behind it is that you don't need money to create art, and again, you don't need a lot of money to earn original pieces. I'm gonna tell you a story. I was in Family Dollar. This lady is picking up some frames and stuff like of the stuff they sell there. I don't know if whoever been there seen them. And I'm like, why you buying? I don't know this lady, ever spoke to her, anything, right? So I'm like, yo, why you buying that? And she was like, no. I said, that paper is not even worth anything. Find a local artist. And she was buying it for her sister, because her sister was running a daycare. And she was buying it for like her sister to decorate the wall or whatever, right? And I'm like, don't do that. Find an artist. I'll help you or whatever. I got a commission out of it, right? But they got original art on their wall now. Right, and I didn't want a lot of money, because if it meant more to me to give them something like that, they could pass that idea to somebody else, right? And that meant more to me. The guy that helped me got more money than me, right? Because it wasn't about the money. It was like trying to educate people in art, right? And that you don't need all this money, right? So I'm not gonna turn around and ask for a lot of money either, right? So support your local artists. Right? And everybody can do art. You just got to be passionate. If you have the passion to create art, you're going to figure a way. Nobody taught me how to paint with acrylics. Nobody taught me how to paint with oils. I seen people in prison doing it, and I mimicked them. Then you could say I made my own style or whatever. I don't know. that's for you to figure to decide, right? But you know how they say artists create their own brushstrokes and this. I don't believe it. I just create art, and you tell me what it look like, what you see.
Maybe a couple more questions.
Thanks for all your talks. As a previous educator for youth, I worked with students from all different cultures and different backgrounds of life, teaching middle school art. Do any of you work with youth in, I guess, justice impacted youth, and what type of programs, if so, are there for youth in this area?
It was about maybe some years ago. I'm gonna say 5 years ago. I was working with some youth in Philadelphia, system impacted. It's called the GILD program, and I came through that program, getting out of prison. So the ages be from 18 to 24, and they usually first-time offenders, but of serious crimes. So I was the art teacher. They have different programs for them, not just art, but I happened to be the art teacher, and that was 5 years ago. So since I moved to New York, because I'm from Philadelphia, then I moved to Fort Greene, Brooklyn. I've been here almost 6 years, and I haven't worked with them in some time, but I used to.
I also did a program with the Guild in Philadelphia. They're under Philadelphia Mural Arts, under PMA. We had guys that were with bracelets on. They were justice impacted from the court system, and they helped me design a mural that I later installed in Philadelphia. I mean, all of us are always carnal. We teach kids on the corner, at the street fairs. We did one last year, me, you, and we're always teaching kids so many times that literally we're gonna forget. We do it a lot. When we're not doing this, we're teaching kids. And, as much as time will permit, because unfortunately with a lot of these institutions, they're not spending money on that anymore. Missiles are more important. All that stuff takes precedence. School gets the bare minimum. So that means that the opportunity for us to go and interact with the school with kids becomes less and less every year. So.
At the moment, I'm helping out this organization called Youth Ministry of Justice and Peace in the Bronx and in Soundview. On Morrison and Soundview on the 6th line. I don't have their calendar, but I believe this summer, it started last summer. This summer they're gonna do every Saturday. They'll have something going there. I do workshops for the kids, the parents, whoever sits down, first come, first serve. And I do that. We try to do a few places and if you could get me inside the system to educate some kids, please reach out. I'll give you my time. All right?
No, I just wanted to mention here in the city, in NYCLU, NYCLU, they have an art, a whole art branch that if you reach out to them, they can steer you down that path as well. They help with funding and all that. Actually, all of us were in a show at NYCLU, was it Brooklyn Windows? Brooklyn Windows, yeah. I just wanted to mention that.
My question is for Rivera. You mentioned how you wanted to keep a discussion going through your art, and so I wanted to know if in any way you wanted to spike a conversation of preventative measure or a call to action. I wanted to know, like you mentioned that through your art you wanted to keep a discussion going. So I wanted to know if in any way you wanted to spike a preventative measure conversation or a call to action for your audience. I mean, like you.
Hey, I'm trying to say that, I wanted the circle of the conversation to expand. I wanted people that normally don't hear or see what's going on to these people to be part of the conversation. Right? So, in that aspect, yeah, the more people get involved into the conversation, the more people we get to realize that this is just not numbers, there's faces behind these numbers, right? And through voting, through whatever it is, because we don't make the laws. The laws, they make them down there and say and we put them there, right? And people in these places are going to take those people's seats in the future, right? So I guess this would be my action, like speaking to you, speaking to people in places like this, right? You know what I'm saying? And expanding the conversation, right? And through the art and how I incorporate some of it in there, right? Is to keep it as fresh as I can in people's ear, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, I would love for art to continue the conversation to do something, right? And I understand prisons ain't going nowhere, not in my lifetime. I get it, right? And they close one, but they build 5 new ones, right? I get it. I don't know. We need to ask some which places. That's somebody. Yes, no. That depends how you think. Did I need 20 years in prison to get it right? No. And whatever education that I got, I seeked in it, right? And I see all these programs going to race, right? So, okay, if we can't totally close prisons down, let's educate the people that are there. From when they come out, they have a better chance, right? I see one of my guys like crying. I couldn't find a job one night, right? And the counselor helped him out. That guy still has the job today, right? This is 11 years ago. That guy still has that job today. All he needed was somebody to believe in him and a chance. And that counselor, he would never have to do anything for him. But the respect that I got for him, because we did for this man was like literally crying. I could have him. And this counselor did it. Gave him the clothes for the interview and everything. Right? And I guess what I'm trying to say is that people just need a chance. Right? And if you give them tools for them to stand on their feet, they will, right? Next question. She had a question. Yes, you got it.
Oh. How hard was it to get like resources to like do your art in prison? Because it's like it's very limited, basically, when you're in prison. So like, how did y'all find like the stuff to do it?
One time I came to the halfway house, I thought I left art in prison. That gentleman over there sent all my art supply to me. So one day I come in and they're like, you got a package? I'm like, I ain't got no package. Yeah, you got a package. It's like 2 boxes with paintbrushes and stuff that I was using in prison. That normally I would never took that stuff with me. I would have just passed it on. But he sent it to me and I said, I guess I'm gonna be an artist again. And here I am today. That's how I got my stuff and some support from people. And that's part of the organization, Right of Return. Right of Return and the advocacy is to help convicts coming home that are into the art, make it easier for them. Because none of this stuff existed when we came out, right? And we happen to be, we fortunate. We was fortunate. Because we're talking about 11, 12 years ago, right? It was nothing. The art world didn't even know that like great art could be created behind the walls of prison. Like they didn't know. And there was other convicts out here creating art, but they never said that. That wasn't a conversation because of the stigma with it. So they would never mention it. Was there other people that went to prison and are artists before us? 100%. But they wouldn't speak because of the stigma. And here we are, we convict, yeah, we artists too. And we had to find a place where it was accepted. The art world is accepting it today. And yeah, and that's part of the right of return. That's part of the advocacy center. And they're going to create those resources for people.
Inside prison, you're allowed to order stuff from Dick Blick, but you're not allowed to order oil paint. There's things. So I was the guy in charge of what you can order, what you can't order. So basically, you can get acrylics. They just can't have any California labeling, because they're toxic. Because they have cadmium, and you can poison somebody, stick it in their Kool-Aid, and they're done. So anything that's liquid, there has to be material safety data sheets on all of anything that comes into prison, readily available for the health and safety reasons. So we had ceramics inside prison. We had all those things, but everything is monitored and everything is controlled. So you can create, it depends on where you are. And that's not every prison, it's not uniform. That's just, we were lucky where we were, we had those programs. And they didn't get taken away. So our job as being there was to make sure they didn't get taken away. Yeah, that's it.
I was gonna say a similar thing that it differs to what jail you in. Like some jail is more lenient towards like materials and allow you like more materials than another jail would. And I was in state prison and they was in a federal prison, so it was like it's just different wherever you go. But I was fortunate to be in a prison in which they allowed you to order a number of art supplies in comparison to other prisons that I went to, because I was in quite a few. Like one time I got locked up in Canada, and it just was like it wasn't like how it was in Greaterford when it came to like supplies and stuff like that. I had a warrant, so when it was on 9/11 when I went while the planes was being flew into the building. That's when I went to Canada, but coming back, they had arrested me because I had a warrant, and it wasn't no art supplies in those prisons. So it depends on where you at.
So when you started making art after incarceration, how did recognition for your art start to pick up? And what were the challenges you faced with pursuing this career?
I can go quick. That's a good question. That's a really good question, because for me, it was I had a plan. Like I wanted to be an artist when I was inside, and I mentioned how I never got visits and stuff like that, and never money on the books from anybody and all that kind of stuff. So I started envisioning that, and then I established a business by doing portraits or whatever, and it was like pretty successful to the point where I was like, all right, well, if I can do this in this kind of environment, I can be an artist on the outside. And like Gilberto explained how like getting a job is like hard when you're a felon. So my vision was to be like a tattoo artist or whatever, and to like control my own destiny. Like if I'm my own boss, I can't worry about like nobody not hiring me or whatever. My plan was to be the dopest tattoo artist ever. So when I was inside, I like taught myself how to read and write. Then I went to the library and got books on art and just study. And I wanted to be not just do tattoos, be really dope at it. But fate have it that I didn't get into tattooing. I just kept just pursuing my art. Not even with like, once I just was doing just the art I was doing, I didn't really like see me being in certain spaces. I just kept creating. So I think that's like important for you guys to know, that if you into art or anything that you're pursuing, keep at it no matter what. Like no matter if you're not getting recognition at the time, because another thing is like you don't know who watching you, especially when you're going hard. When you keep going, like you being watched and you don't know it. So one of the first significant shows I had was with the Democratic National Convention in 2015, and with all these artists, Banksy, Hank Willis Thomas. It was like all these famous artists that my work was incorporated in the show, and then got a lot of attention out of one of the favorite pieces. It was when I did a portrait, a 10 by 10 of myself on my prison documents. So, you know, of what I was going to throw those documents away because I know I was done with like prison and everything. Because like you hold on to your papers in case you have to go back to court, and it become a habit where you hoard that stuff. And I turned it into art, you know, and then it got recognized. And like from people that I didn't expect to find me. So I would say just keep going wherever you're doing.
What was the question again? No, I'm just kidding. Nah, I just want to make it real quick is that, you know, once again, back to being inside and, you know, creativity was the one thing that they weren't allowed to take away from me. And so I made a deal with life right then and there that for better or for worse, when I get out, it was and it is extremely hard and there's so much stigma, of course, but I made a deal with life for better or worse that the one thing, you know, I could say true to this gift, this, you know, God, goddess, earthly energy, however we individualize, however we see it, it's an energy force or whatever. I made a deal with it, shook its hand while I was inside. It's all I had left, so I'm going hard, for better or for worse.
I just want to say, throw everything you think you know about the art world or whatever you're being taught in the garbage. Actually, before you throw it in the garbage, put it in a capsule, go out to the middle of the ocean, throw it in the sea, because this is a formless thing. There is no right way to do this or no wrong way. No one can tell you how to do it for yourself. I can't, no one can. This thing has to be figured out. You're the god of this thing. So whatever you're creating, you have to create a narrative and you have to present it, and you have to have like a PhD explaining what you do. It used to be back in the day, some of the older people in the audience remember when the art critics ran this thing. You know, like you'd be, oh my God, I want to have a critic. Or a critic would come by and be like, this is a great exhibition. Next thing you know, you're driving a Ferrari. Those days are gone now. If you can't explain your work, if you don't even know what you're doing and you can't articulate it, I don't care if you paint like Goya, it's over. You have to be able to articulate the sentiment in the work, or it's a waste of time. And don't worry about sales or any of that. You're gonna starve, you're gonna be broke, you're gonna be eating ramen noodles, bank's gonna go into overdraft at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're gonna be like, oh, I forgot this bill. So like, get ready for all that. I'm not gonna go hard because they start making fun of me, but it's no joke. You pick the hard. We came out of prison and picked the hardest job to have. We could have all fell back and done construction, whatever. We picked the hardest thing to do. So that's all. I just want to end that.
Okay, maybe we can end here, and let's give Jared. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gilberto. All right.